Alright guys, let's learn about some. There are two types of drugs, which is antagonist and agonist. Antagonist drug is the drug that inhibit the effect on particular neurotransmitter on postsynaptic cell, while for agonist drug is the drug that facilitate the effect of particular neurotransmitter on postsynaptic cell. So now let's learn about the effect on production on neurotransmitter. So how agonists work? Most neurotransmitters are produced from molecules called precursor, and agonists act as precursor. So when it is administered, it will allow the neurotransmitter to be produced. For antagonist drug, the production of neurotransmitter is controlled by the enzyme, and antagonist drug will inactivate the enzymes so that neurotransmitter cannot be produced. So, what is the effect on storage and release of neurotransmitter? Neurotransmitter will be transported by the synaptic vesicle. The way how it is transported is by transporter molecule, which is located at the membrane of the synaptic vesicle. When the antagonist drug attached to the transporter molecule, it will inactivate it, and neurotransmitter cannot be transported to the synaptic vesicle, which will result no neurotransmitter that can be transported to the presynaptic membrane. While when agonist drug attached to the protein at presynaptic membrane, it will enable synaptic vesicle to fuse with presynaptic membrane, which will trigger the release of neurotransmitter. Now let's move to the next topic, which is effect of drugs on receptors. Alright, the first one is direct agonist, which is the drug that mimic the effect of neurotransmitter. The drug molecules bind to the binding site and cause the ion channels, which is controlled by the receptor, to open, and then the ion pass through the channel and produce postsynaptic potentials. Next is about indirect agonist, which is a drug that bind to the alternative site and facilitate the opening of ion channels. For direct antagonist, it is a drug that bind with postsynaptic receptor, which will occupy the receptor binding site, and it will prevent the neurotransmitter from opening the ion channel. The last one is indirect antagonist. It is a drug that bind with the alternative sites and prevent the ion channel from opening. It is also referred as non-competitive binding because the drug molecules does not competing with the other neurotransmitter. So how the drug affect the autoreceptors? The presynaptic membranes of some neurons contain autoreceptors. And the function of autoreceptors is to regulate the amount of neurotransmitter release, and when it is stimulated, less neurotransmitter will be released. For the type of drug, it is the same as before. For activating one is antagonist, and for the blocking one is agonist. For presynaptic heteroreceptor, it is located at the second terminal button of exoagonist, and it is very sensitive to the neurotransmitter that being released by the first terminal button. For antagonist drug, it will facilitate the presynaptic inhibition in the presynaptic heteroreceptor, which will cause the inhibition of neurotransmitter. For agonist drug, it will activate the presynaptic facilitation, which it will facilitate the release of neurotransmitter. Some autoreceptors located at the membrane of the dendrites of the neurons. When the neurons active, the dendrites will also active, and it will release the neurotransmitter. When the neurotransmitter is released, it will stimulate the autoreceptor and automatically will cause hyperpolarization. The antagonist drug will bind and activate the dendritic autoreceptor, which then will encourage the inhibitory of hyperpolarization. While for agonist drug, it will bind and block the dendritic autoreceptor and then prevent the inhibitory of hyperpolarization. The last part is effects on reuptake or destruction of neurotransmitter. For this one, there is only agonist drug. It will attach to the transporter molecule and cause the reuptake process to be impossible. And it will also bind with the enzyme that destroy the neurotransmitter, making it impossible for the enzyme to destroy the neurotransmitter.
Created using Powtoon.